Welcome back to Changing Latitudes. Another beautification moment. We have in the back of me here 20 different trees, all of them cherry. However, 8 of them are Yoshino cherry trees, which will sit up at the top, and the remaining 12 trees, 2 of them are Bing, and the other 10 are around the reservoir as well, are Rainiers. For right now, this is what we're doing today, so stick with us. Well, welcome back. So now we're going to go ahead and start unloading these cherry trees and getting them in the right positions. I've already had the holes pre-dug by Ron up here on the top side. I'm going to go ahead and do the ones down around the reservoir with the backhoe. It's only the small pots are smaller, 1 scoop. It's already been pre-dug and replaced with quality topsoil in the area, so don't have to do much digging down there. Just have to kind of stick them in the ground and make sure that they're level and straight and everything else. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start unloading these guys with the tractor. I've got to take out the smaller guys first, put them down in the valley, get them some water. They've been a little bit left to be dried out, so I've got to get them some water like ASAP. And then come back up here to the top and start putting in the Yoshino cherry trees. It's quite exciting. It's actually a formulation of many events that have gone on the way here. Getting rid of all the garbage that was along the sides of this, leveling everything out, straightening out, putting irrigation lines in, French drains in, making sure heavy equipment wouldn't enter the area again. So there's been a lot of pre-work to this point. 4.5 years later, here we are. Well, with everything unloaded now, we're going to go ahead and put in the trees. You know, the holes were dug by Ron earlier, so we're in good shape there. Now it's just going to measure the depth here, get a little loose base in there, get that thing set properly, and off to the races we go. So here we go. As I just mentioned, there is quite a bit of excitement about putting in these Yoshino cherry trees. You know, they're absolutely beautiful. They run about 30 to 50 feet in width and height. So they will be very dramatic when you approach the home. It'll have that feel of a pretty grand entrance. So we're excited about putting them in. Of course, the process that we're about ready to show here as we're developing out this location, you know, there's quite a bit of work. So we had the holes pre-dug by Ron. You know, the next step was to make sure that the root ball of the tree itself was higher than the plane of the dirt around it. So, I measured that out. I made sure that we built up that base with some loose dirt. It's advised that we put in a base of loose dirt that's approximately half at least of the pot itself. And make sure that you're building that up so that the roots have ability to drill into the ground right away into the, if you will, softer dirt. Well, here's the start of day 2 on October 1st. It's a nice brisk morning. You know, we started to get a couple done last night, but after picking them up, transferring out, and also getting them offloaded and what have you, the day came to a close. So here we are, start brisk in the morning. So, we're putting this in with some of the soil conditioner here that breaks down hard clay. We will have clay conditions up here. The good news is for this particular area is we're on a hillside, call it a 10-15% slope, and it allows for the water to kind of drift off and not sit. So the irrigation in this area will be sprinklers. I don't have drip lines out to trees, so there will be hand watering for the most part. So I got the soil conditioner to break up the soil a little bit. Got the starter here for the trees to start strong. And So overall, I think it's going to go in well today. We've got 6 more of these of the Yoshino cherry trees up here on the top. So with that, I think I'm going to bring out the tractor. Yesterday was a little bit of beating ourselves up a bit with the dirt. So I think today what I'm going to do is, God forbid I use the technology that's on the tractor, I'm going to actually drop the rototiller into the dirt, soften it all up, break it all down, and get as much out of it. Get some of the turf that's commingled when we dug the holes out of it, easily. So it should start off a lot easier today. So I'm going to go around and hit the holes first with that, and then my mom and Sherry will come out and assist with putting in these trees. So with that, I'm going to get started. When I provided Ron with guidance on how big to dig the holes, I did not have the pot size. I was actually farming the Yoshino cherry trees when he was actually digging the holes. So we were kind of off kilter there a little bit. We couldn't quite communicate. But the holes are just a tad too big per my direction. And so we had to definitely do a lot more backfilling than we would have needed to. It worked out pretty well because you were allowed to take the topsoil, mix it in with the clay, and bring in that starter as well as the soil conditioner and mix it all together and get all of that put in a concert to help the tree start off correctly. So I'm building this mound around these trees to ensure that we could hold the water here in the beginning as the roots get established. As I mentioned before, there is about a 10 to 15% slope here, so the water will just definitely run off the top grade. So we'd like to hold the water in, have it, sink into the immediate area. The first step you have to do after removing the tree from the container is to loosen up the root bound so that the tree has a chance to get those roots driving away from the core trunk of the tree. If you don't do that, they'll continue to wrap around and the tree will never fully grow. It's fading towards the street, so that needs to be picked up.
Kind of, yeah. And the thinner part of the tree is, where's the thinner part of the tree? Towards the lighthouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're good on where that's positioned. As far as straight up and down, we're good here.
Yeah.
How are we on that side?
No, it looks straight. Good.
The decision to locate the trees 20 feet from the road was based on the fact that I wanted to center it in the middle of the parkway. One thing that we will be doing after we put in the pavers on the road and complete the grass feed is also placing a fence 40 feet from the road, finishing off the parkway with the trees in the center. So of course I wanted to gap out the trees every 20 feet going up towards the houses, and then also 20 feet from the road and 20 feet from the future fence that's going to be placed in. So it was really kind of critical to get those kind of measurements and also evaluate the fade, make sure that the tree was facing the right direction, and all those elements that go into, it can drive you crazy to make sure that it's absolutely perfect. But hey, listen, you got one shot to get this right, and then after that you're going to live with whatever you have in the tree. Okay, number 5 trees in. We're running about an hour a tree to put in, so we got 3 more to go, and so it's around noon, so probably finish out the day with putting these trees in. The decision to plant the trees in October was tied to a couple things. Number one, you do want to plant the trees in a time frame where there was less stress on the plant. You don't want to do it within the summertime with heats getting as high as 100 degrees and high UV factors. The spring was not available to us simply because the ground needed to be taken care of for planting of grass and getting it all leveled out and ready to go for the spring. We have a very short window here in North Idaho to where we can plant grass, so I always choose to do the planting in the fall. So having back up to these Yoshino cherry trees, I need to get those in before the grass was hydroseeded onto the ground. So that was why the decision was to plant the trees in the fall. One of 2 choices you can make, and I just chose to go with the fall given the other scale of other things going on and around it. One of the dangers of putting these trees in is, of course, wildlife. They do have a nice aroma. They are appealing to the elk and the deer that do live on the property. Unfortunately, they will nibble on it, and there's probably nothing I can do about it. I can put fences around, place them up 12 feet tall and hope that I can keep them away from it. But of course, you're also fighting the downside of that, and the fact that the trees themselves would be kind of caged in and then watering and fighting through all that. And given the spaces that we're talking about, unfortunately, we're going to have to take the downside risk of that. But if I was just planting one tree in one smaller location, I would definitely fence it in for a certain bit of period of time to insulate the trees from the wildlife. One of the things to consider when planting these trees is how they take water. The best way to water these Yoshino cherry trees is about twice a week for 30 minutes, fully dumping a ton of water onto them for that 30 minutes rather than say sprinklers on the top. It does nothing for them to have a little sprinkling on the top. And unfortunately, we do not have the ability to put in irrigation drip lines around these trees. I did not design it that way. Well, number 8 is in place and looking beautiful. It's a smaller tree because they only had at the nurseries all around town. I mean, I went to at least 6 or 7 of them. And these were the only Yoshinos left in the marketplace. So I had to buy 2 25 gallons, 5 of the 20 gallons, and 1 15. So it's the smallest one. Having said that, it looks beautiful. So with that, hey, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.